Welcome to a special episode of PTG TV, where I discuss with my guest, president of the Bass Reeves Gun Club and creator of the National African American Gun Association, African Americans and the Second Amendment. The history of African Americans in the United States is one marked by oppression, discrimination, and violence.
They came on the first day of January and they did not stop burning and shooting and hanging and lynching until January the 7th.
From slavery to segregation, from Jim Crow laws to police brutality, African Americans have faced numerous challenges throughout our history. And while progress has been made in many years, the rise in hate crimes and racially motivated violence has made it clear that there is still much work to be done. Given this history, it is understandable why many African Americans feel the need to arm ourselves for protection. In the past, we were unable to defend ourselves. We suffered greatly, from slave owners who beat, whipped, and killed their slaves with impunity to police officers who shot unarmed black men without consequence. The vulnerability for African Americans has been exploited throughout history. By arming ourselves, we can ensure our own safety and security and reduce the risk of becoming a victim of violence. Moreover, the right to bear arms is enshrined in the Second Amendment to the United States Constitution, and African Americans have fought long and hard to secure our constitutional rights. From the civil rights movement to the present day, African Americans have been at the forefront of the struggle for equality and justice. The right to bear arms is an important part of this struggle as it allows us to protect ourselves and our families from harm. The history of African Americans in the United States is a very complex one, marked by both struggle and resilience. The need for self-protection is more important than ever in the face of the ongoing threat of violence and discrimination.
When I would see the horror on their face, and then they would begin to wail and cry and, console each other. And it was like so emotional, and it was such a vivid picture because this wasn't just something I was reading in a book.
Arming ourselves is not only our right, but also a practical way to ensure our safety and security in a world that still has a long way to go in terms of equality and justice. The one issue that arises whenever we mention the systemic racism in this country is black on black crime. It is important to acknowledge that African Americans, like any other group of people, can also be victims of violence from members in our own community. However, the existence of black on black crime should not be used as a reason to deny us the right to bear arms for self-protection. Firstly, it is harmful stereotypes to suggest that all black Americans are prone to violence or criminal behavior simply because of the color of our skin. In reality, the majority of black Americans are law-abiding citizens who are just as deserving of the right to bear arms as anyone. And yes, I did switch up from African Americans to black Americans. Furthermore, the prevalence of black on black crime can often be attributed to systemic issues such as poverty, lack of access to education and healthcare, and structural racism. Rather than blaming black Americans for the violence we experience, we should focus on addressing the underlying issues in order to create safer and more equitable communities. In short, just because black Americans face violence from members of our own community, it doesn't negate the need for us to be able to protect ourselves from external threats. Denying this right on the basis of harmful stereotypes or systemic issues perpetuate a cycle of injustice and inequality. Thank you all for tuning in. I'm excited for you to hear this episode. Welcome to PTG TV. This is your host, Antonio Hicks, aka Escaping the Matrix. In this episode of Real Talk and Conversation, I welcome on my special guest, Mr. Larry Brown, president of the Bass Reeves Gun Club, the founding chapter of the National African American Gun Association, in a discussion about gun ownerships in the African American community. Welcome on to the show, brother.
Thank you for having me.
Now, can you give our listeners tell them a little bit about yourself and how you got into gun ownership, for one, because it's a stigma in the black community, especially like here in the South. Like us growing up, it was one of the things we shied away from, and now you see a lot of us going to actually purchase guns. So how you got started into gun ownership and the training you had, like just your background in general?
Yes, I mean, for me, it started at a kind of an early age. Georgia boy growing up had the BB gun, so I used to be running around the yard with the BB gun back when we could do safely, right? And then contemplated a career with the military, but my mom was super opposed to that. I'm the only son, so I was like, okay, let me go the other route, right? But never lost that interest. So 21 years old, was able to get my first pistol. I did so, got my license to carry up in Tennessee when I was going to Tennessee State up there. But it wasn't until really coming back home and connecting with Bass Reeves Gun Club that I really understood and started to take off as a gun owner. I'm not even talking about the instructional part, just a gun owner, understanding how to train, how to handle it in a safe manner. Never was unsafe, but I just didn't know the rules like I do now. So I joined Bass Reeves in 2017. And at that point, I started to kind of get into the club and get out of my comfort zone and just be more active with it. And then during the pandemic, so about 3 years of just working with Bass Reeves, during the pandemic, I decided let me go get my certification to be an instructor. Had always had people tell me to, hey, can I go to the range with you? Can I go to the range with you? So let me just do this legitimately. So 2020 got my certification to be an instructor, and then also became a NAAGA certified instructor. So we do have our own instructor curriculum now as well. So I'm USCCA certified and NAAGA certified for that. And really, my passion has been teaching people. So I definitely take training courses myself. For the better part of a year, I was learning different, more technique stuff, room clearing and vehicle defense type of situations, and just how to do more technical things. Definitely learned a lot from that training, in addition to just how to run the firearms, how to stand better, how to make sure you find your center of gravity better. So I've taken that and continue to be a student as well. I don't take the being an instructor as just being the end all be all. No, I need to continue to be a student as well, because things change, techniques change, equipment changes. So I want to make sure that I'm staying ahead of the game and at least know what's going on to be able to help my family, the Bass Reeves family, my NAAGA family.
Now you said technique changes. Now I'm one that actually I started off doing like boxing and stuff after being bullied. I started doing boxing and mixed martial arts and stuff and fighting at an early age. And I know in fighting, different techniques come out that you can try to incorporate into like mixed martial arts and stuff. But how does that carry over into like using a weapon?
So for me, I think, and without revealing too much, so one of my trainers that I went to was a former Navy SEAL.
Uh-huh.
And you got to think about when things change, a lot of times it's coming from, not to just say that particular, but it's coming from the military down.
Okay.
Right? Because they are the ones who are, at least in my opinion, who are doing the day-to-day with firearms on a more consistent basis. So technique changes. They may figure out, hey, this works better, and it starts to get that trickle down effect. So now that they know it, they teach somebody else, somebody teaches that whole tree of that educational tree starts to happen. So that's just, I would say, probably special forces overall, in my opinion, where they are engaged in something, they learn something, and then it gets to the police force, and then put on police force, it gets to the civilian level, to where this new technique is now what we want to do. Take, for instance, stance. Stance was one of the things that was taught early on, was the weaver stance, the sideways, foot, 1 foot forward, 1 foot back. Well, and not this came from the military, but after they did some studies, they found that they weren't doing that. It was like you said, you're a boxer, your natural stance is not to be so far open.
Right.
You're a fighter, you gotta you get enough fighting stance.
Yeah.
And a lot of people say this, guns are just a fight with the gun. It's the same thing. I played baseball growing up. So for me, my stance, it takes the position of getting ready to go left, right, whatever I need to do. That's just my natural thing. So what they found was, when, like I said, with technique changes, is you were trained a certain way based on something, which was more so precision competition shooting, where I can stand a certain way, versus defensively, that doesn't work. And they found, after several police shooting incidents, they found that police weren't using it. And so why would we teach it if you're not using it? So that's how we kind of came up with that's how the position of the isosceles stance came about. So those are the things that I talk about when I say technique changes. Is we get taught something and then we figure that doesn't work. What are we naturally doing? What works better? And let's do that.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't want to get off topic. I was just interested in that because I'm like,
no, you good. Yep.
I know when, like I said, when it comes to fighting, you learn how to find, like you said, find your center mass of balance, and then how to throw strikes, and always, keep yourself together so you don't lose your footing. So yeah, I was kind of interested in it before we go off into other stuff. Now you say you from Georgia?
Born and raised, yes, sir.
Yeah, what part of Georgia you from?
So I told some people I'm Atlanta born, but I only stayed there for 2 months. Then my parents moved to Decatur, so I'm a Decatur boy.
I mean, you still part of it. I mean, Decatur ain't that far from outside the
It's
city.
not that far, nah.
Yeah, I'm a country boy.
If you ask my Atlanta friends who grew up in Atlanta, like, you from Decatur, I'm like, all right.
Yeah, it depends on what part you from. Because I mean, if you're from like the
Yeah,
city of Decatur, you might as well be in Atlanta because Atlanta only like a hop, skip, and a jump away.
exactly.
Yeah, I'm from Macon,
I
Georgia.
grew up right off I got some good people down in Macon too. But yeah, I grew up right off of 20, so to hop on 20 and be in the city limits that fast.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I ask that question when people tell me they're from here because I like to shout out my fellow born natives because it's always interesting. I don't see them that often because I
yeah,
see so many implants than I do homegrown people. So whenever I see homegrown people, I have to give them a shout out and dap them up because
for sure.
we trying to survive out here in the midst of oceans of all the implants.
Right. Yeah, I feel you. Yeah, it's
So
few and far between for us.
yeah, now for me, like I got into gun ownership because my family, well, coming from the South, coming from Macon, like they didn't want us to get involved with guns because of, and I'm gonna say because of the racism behind it, because it was afraid if we owned a weapon, then police and everybody, all the white people down there are gonna be coming after us for just having a weapon in the house. But my uncle and some of my other uncles, they were actually in the military. My one uncle served in the police force and then progressively moved up into the FBI. So all of us was trained a little bit on how to use guns and stuff. And my father wanted to have a gun in the house, but my mom wouldn't allow.
Mm-hmm.
But as we got older, like myself and my siblings, we end up getting into weapons. And then my boxing coach, he actually was an ex-Marine from he served in Nam, and he was he lost it. He was he was a Marine, but yeah, he had so many issues from being a Marine serving overseas. But
Mm-hmm.
he taught me a lot about like how to shoot and how to properly, use weapons and whatnot and be safe around people. And he actually used to take me, we used to train out into the woods up in the mountains and we would go out there and practice shooting. So that's when
Mm-hmm.
I kind of fell in love with it. And I was like, I didn't own a gun at that point in time because shortly after that I got married. And I was always worried about, even though you shouldn't be. This is why I wanted to have you on too to talk about the stigma of being afraid, because most houses, well, I'm pretty much the bulk of houses, you have like your master bedroom, and then your other bedrooms all around where like the stairwell is. You have like a 2-story house. So for me, my biggest
Mm-hmm.
fear was if anybody ever came into the house and I came out, my kids were always in the line of sight,
Mm-hmm.
and so I got more efficient at trying to use like knives or whatever, but we all know that you can't bring knives or bats or
Right.
to a gunfight. So for
Yeah.
you, like when you got started, like, do you have a family? If you don't mind me asking that.
No. I don't have any. Well, my niece or also my nephew will stay over every now and then.
Okay.
So that's something where, to your point, I have to realize the room that I put him in now is across from mine. So he could be, in the line of sight, potentially if something were to happen. So yeah,
Now,
that is a consideration I thought about.
yeah, to ask that. So how important is that in people that goes into training, like being
Mhm.
trained to understand, to know when to shoot versus when not to shoot, and
Correct.
to control that fear. If they say there is somebody actually breaking into your house, there's an intruder.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, I think it's very important. Like I said, it goes to training. It goes to, do you have a plan in place? No plan is foolproof,
Right.
but do you have something in place? If you have nothing in place, then you just working off of whatever emotion you have at that point, which is may not be good. Fear or the high adrenaline rush may not be good. So, do you have a plan in place? For me, I haven't talked to my nephew yet because he doesn't stay over that frequently. But it's like if something were to happen, stay in your room. Don't come out because I feel like because I've done room clearing and things like that. If he were to come out, I've done enough to where I know, hey, shoot, no shooter. He's still kind of short, so I can get over him if I need to. I'm just gonna push him out the way. He'll be
Mm-hmm.
all right with that bump, but he'll be alive, but he'll be pushed out the way.
Right.
At that point, is got to take action and get you get him out of harm's way. So if I got to be physical enough to just push him out the way, then it is what it is. But he'll be alive. Um, so, but having those plans in place is huge. One of the things we teach is home and self-defense protection plan. And I can't tell you what that is because everybody's home is different. I know my home, so I understand how I'm gonna do it in my home.
Right.
Your home is different from mine, yours is different from somebody else. but have they thought about what that would look like should someone come in? I know right off the gate, my front and my back, and how all that works. And know I got a fence, so I know, hey, more than likely they're not going to jump that fence. They're probably gonna come for the front. Cool, understood. But again, I got neighbors across the street, so if I got to shoot, like I got neighbors across the street, so I got to take that in consideration. It's not just
Right.
my nephew; it's their kids as well,
Right.
and them. So all of those things you have to kind of consider in terms of if you have a home invasion or home break-in, where my angles are going to be, where if I'm shooting down, if I'm shooting up, if I'm shooting directly across. Even if you're shooting directly across and you get a hit, depending on if you got full metal jacket ammo, as we know, that's not really a defensive round. That's just going to go straight through. So
Right.
even in a hit, if it's just going straight through to my neighbors, I'm still screwed.
Yeah.
So all those things I try to impart to people to say, hey, make sure you got the right ammo. Make sure you understand the angles. If you got high ground, low ground, or whatever it is, what is your home layout and what's the best way to defend yourself in your home?
Now, that's something that you all teach in your classes?
Um, we talk about it. It's hard to teach, and so not that we do that through Bass I might do it through my own personal business
Uh-huh.
and have them understand the different angles. We have taught shooting from angles in terms of we have a target set up that's a threat target, but right behind that as an innocent, and we can't shoot that innocent, right? Now, granted, it's a static situation because those targets are moving, but we can move and understand angles of shot placement. So now I can move off the X of that target and still get a good hit in center mass and not hit the target the innocent behind it.
Right.
So though training people to understand how those angles and things work is something that we have done and that I do in my classes as well, in the higher level classes.
Now, to shift back a little bit, so how does your family feel about you especially being the president of the gun club? And I'm sure you own, kind of like I do, a mass amount of weapons.
Yeah. I mean, I am the gun guy now. Now, I was before that, right? But my mom and dad got into it, so they own their own guns now.
Also, your mom will shoot?
And oh yeah, I took her to the range before I was president. Before I think I was even an instructor, I took them to the range, and I let them know because I had a gun before they knew I had a gun. Like I said, I was 21 years old off of college. They didn't know anything, so I'm like, I'm legal. I ain't got to tell y'all anything anyway.
Right.
But I came back home after Tennessee State, and I was living with them for a while. And at that time, I remember specifically there was a lot of home invasions going on at the time. So I was like, let me at least, because I wasn't carrying it with me because I hadn't got my permit, so I didn't carry it with me at that time. And so let me at least let them know it's here. Because if I'm not here, then they can at least know to go get it and defend themselves if they need to. So flash forward, took her to the range her first time, and she cried because she had never touched the firearm. So, but she got back in there, and she got that emotional out the way, and then got back in there. And she's been, oops, I don't know if I clicked off of you, but she got back in there, and so she's really into it now. She wants to go to the range. So I think I've had a good influence on them. They definitely come to me if they have questions or anything. My uncle bought a rifle. Hey, can you zero this sight for me? Cool. Yeah, just give it to me, uncle. I'll take it and do my thing with it. So I think they enjoy it. They definitely accept it and are very cool with it.
Now, in your opinion, why do you think gun ownership is so low in the African American community?
I think a lot of it is fear, like kind of how you alluded to earlier. But I think it's fear of the unknown, fear of not, in my opinion, fear of not knowing how to be safe with it. In some cases, and I think once they understand the safety rules and then putting those in application, I've had my barber's wife. She was fearful, even though he has them. She was just like, she didn't want to touch him. He got her on one of my classes. I went through it. I tell people all the time, especially beginner level. I don't care if you learn. I don't care if you leave knowing how to shoot. That's not really my thing. I want you to leave knowing how to be safe.
Mm-hmm.
That's the biggest thing, and that's what we preach in Bass Reason and NAAGA overall is safety. If you know how to be safe with it, it takes some of that fear out of it. I know, hey, don't touch the trigger. I know, don't point at anything I don't intend to destroy. I know, hey, know my target and what's beyond it. Like, if you start knowing all those rules and how to be safe, it takes some of that fear away from it. I think there also is some trauma in certain communities in terms of gun violence, to where it's this thing that causes death, but it's for lack of better words, or just not, it's a tool. It's a tool, no more than if I had a hammer or, like you said, knife.
Right.
It's a tool, a device used to do whatever I want to do with it. And if I choose to do harm with it, then that's really on me. It's not the tool. The tool didn't say, "Hey, get up and let's go do this." I chose to do whatever I did with that tool.
Right.
So we have to kind of, to me, get out of that mindset of it being such a thing of a negative aspect, to where it's a tool, it's a device, no more than our cell phones. This cell phone here, we teach, when I teach counter and mass shooter class, this cell phone is heavy. I don't really want to take it to the head, but so this device now can be used as a weapon if I truly need it to be.
Right.
So everything can be a weapon if you really need it to be. I mean, I have pens right here. We've all seen John Wick. I'm no John Wick, but let's be honest. If I really needed to use this pen, it can be a deadly weapon just as much. So we got to get out of that mindset of the gun is such a bad thing, to where it causes something. No, people cause things, and I think as we kind of start to see that shift of where people are understanding, that's just a tool. It's an inanimate object. If I sit it on this table, it's not going to move and get up and do anything.
Right.
So I think as we start to move past the idea of it being such a thing that does harm, and realize that it can, but it also can save life.
Right.
It could preserve my life, right? Because I use it to preserve my life if I need to. So it also can preserve life. If I rather, and I'll tell people all the time, I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. So which would you want to do? And as we talk about community, and in our community, I live in between three counties, really. I'm in the Ellenwood area, and I'm sit on between DeKalb, Clayton, and Henry. So September 11th, of last year, I had a guy come to my door 11:30 at night and jiggling the door, trying to get in and everything. So call the police, and I'm in Clayton. I get DeKalb. DeKalb has to then transfer me to Clayton. Clayton then has to accept it and hear what's going on, then send somebody out. Think about how much time that's taken, and then if he really come in, I'd have nothing to defend myself. I'm in a bad situation. So I think people need to be able to at least have it as an option to defend yourself if you need to.
Right.
Don't say you have to use it and get trained on it, but I'm not saying to go use it, but have it as an option to defend yourself. Like I said, he didn't come in. Luckily, nothing happened. But that just showed me, if I call 911 in a true situation, I might get to DeKalb County, who's going to have to transfer me to Clayton County, who's then going to have to pick up and answer and send the people out. And if you've ever shot on a shot timer, we did something where we put the group on 40 seconds to go through a little scenario we set up. 40 seconds is a long time. It doesn't sound like a lot of time. So I played that shot timer and hit the buzzer, and then we sitting there, we're waiting. 40 seconds is a long time. Now think about getting attacked or shot at, and that's within a minute.
Yep.
So
yeah, I tell people the same thing when it comes to like 5 minutes, because we used to train for like 5-minute rounds in boxing, and I was like, you would think 5 minutes is nothing because you can get up and walk to the kitchen, make some coffee, and you 5 minutes is done and gone. But I was like you said, when it comes down to defending yourself, that's a long time.
Long time. Yeah, it's a long time. I mean, you think about we're in bed and we said, I'm gonna give myself 5 minutes. Before I know it, that 5 minutes is gone.
It's gone. Yeah.
But defending yourself, it's a lifetime. Literally, it's a lifetime.
Mm-hmm. Now, since you've been trained, I'm always curious about this because I know how I respond to it. So since you've been trained, do you find yourself able to pull your gun out first, or are you thinking through try to grab something else before you actually pull your weapon out to take a life?
So
not even take a life, just to defend yourself.
Right. Definitely think about the de-escalation first. And in the situation here, right? Because I'm trained I'm willing to let a situation actually truly be what it is before I go to a gun or a knife or whatever the case may be. Um, and if, obviously I'm in my own home, so there's no de-escalation or avoidance here. I'm in my home. Like,
Right.
where am I going to go? Right. But I'm also, like I said, willing to say, uh, he can jiggle the door all he wants. If he even starts kicking it, hey, listen, dude, get out of here. But
Right.
until he's actually in, I'm willing to let. I feel like because of my training, I'm willing to let a situation, like I said, truly be what it is, and not kind of be fearful of what it might be. Let me be sure what it actually is.
Right.
I always talk about de-escalation. I'm one of those type of people anyway, where I'm real mellow, cool, calm. If you want to argue with me and I have no idea who you are on the street, listen, you win that argument. I could care less because I probably won't see you ever again in my life. I'm cool with that. You could think you won. I might be, you might have, whatever. I really just don't care because it's like, do I want to pump my chest and beat you in this argument and let things escalate? Or do I want to just, bye, dude? Like, you can sit here and keep fuming if you want to. I'm gone. So I talk about de-escalation. We talk about de-escalation a lot. Plus, I also tell people, even if it keeps pushing and we get into a tussling, I carry all the time. As soon as they feel that firearm, it's jumping to a whole nother level.
Mm-hmm.
Why even try to put myself in that situation again? Because now that he's felt mine, now it's like, oh, he has a gun. Let me hurry pull mine before he pull his. And
Right.
now it's just spiraled out of control.
They get the
So that's
added
another
boost of
thing.
adrenaline.
Exactly, right? So for me, like I said, with the training, I feel like I'm willing to let things be what they truly are if I can't avoid them. Um, but I get why some people who aren't trained as much jump to it as well because you're fearful of what it might be, and fear tells. One of my favorite quotes. I'm probably gonna misquote it right now, but it was from the movie. What's the movie with Will Smith and his son, where it was just him and his son the whole movie.
I know what you want to talk about.
After Earth.
Uh-huh.
And he said, "Fear." Like I said, I'm gonna butcher the quote. I'm gonna butcher the line, but pretty much he was saying, "Fear is just up here.
It is. Yeah.
Danger is real, but fear is all here." And a lot of people fear what they see happening and think they see what they think is happening, but it's not. It's just the fear playing out the scenario in your mind. Versus, yes, that situation could have been dangerous, but there was no fear because he can't get in the house. Why am I going to be fearful right now? He definitely had something in his hand. So yes, this was a dangerous situation, but there was no fear to be had. It either he's coming in or he's not. Simple as that. But I think that came with the training of just running those different scenarios, shoot no shoot scenarios so much for the better part of a year to where it's like, yeah, let me just let this be what it is. If he gets in, cool. If he doesn't, no gain, no harm, no foul. Um, so yeah, I think we definitely need to make sure, or at least for me, I make sure things are where they are truly before I react to something. And if my initial reaction is you win the argument, let me go about my business.
Yeah, I agree with that because like I said, initially I got into boxing and stuff because I used to get picked on in school and I got bullied and actually got jumped on because I'm short and I was a little nerdy kid in school. But I found that going through all the training I've gone through, learning fighting techniques, learning how to use all kinds of weapons and stuff, I'm really back to being the same chill person I was back in school with all the training behind me because I understand that no matter anything I can do can cause somebody to lose their life.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have to maintain my level of cool, kind of like what you said. I don't care about words. Like you can argue with me down all day long. I don't care. I mean, because I'm never going to see you again. And I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you can even get so far as to say that you might, because we had a situation happen when we was in the Dominican Republic, like you might put your hands on my shoulder. Even in that, if I don't feel like you're trying to cause me any harm, I'm not trying to strike you or do anything. So I feel as though that if you had the proper training, you have more control over your feelings and how to control yourself than those who, like you said, are like fearful of their life, or not. It's not even a fearful situation taking place, and they haven't been trained properly or practiced their training properly. Because even
Mm-hmm.
if I didn't even have my gun on me, I'll keep a knife on me. But if something's
Yep.
getting ready to take place, it's like I would rather fight somebody before I pull out something that could be vital.
Correct. Yep. And I think about the case here, I forget, maybe a few months ago, with the guy who shot and killed a guy who was just moving his car. He was working at either the dealership or the tire shop, whatever it was. He was just an employee. He was moving the car, but he thought and was in this hyper sense of that person is stealing my car versus seeing it for what it truly was, which is the employee is just moving your car. And he shot and killed him. So those are the situations I'm telling people, like, you can't. One of the greatest things my instructor down there taught me was you got to be a thinking shooter. You got to think through what you're saying. Even if a violent situation happens right now, if I put 2-3 rounds on target and he drops, I got to think that situation is done. I can't continue that, but I got to get out of the emotional and think he's done, move forward. And that's where, like I said, that training kicks in. That training where you say, I can think through this. I can get pushed to where I can see this for what it is. I understand the emotional's out. This is just logic, and that person is down. I can move forward.
Now, to get on another personal side of that, why is it that, in your opinion, because it's in that both of our opinion, we can think through these situations, we can have a proper training, we know how to handle ourselves, but why do you think when it comes to our community, certain people within our community, that's the first thing they do is pull out a weapon and shoot, and then you have police officers that's supposed to be the most highly trained, that's the first thing that they do?
Again, like you said, opinions, right?
Yeah, it's our opinion. This is highly our opinion.
Unity piece. I think we don't take training, to be honest with you. We don't take training, and I will say the biggest thing is ego. We get these egos, and that the gun is the equalizer. It's my last resort.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. It's not the equalizer. It's the last resort. But ego starts to creep in, and it's like he did this or he said this, so blah blah. No, it's ego, and I think part of that is lack of training, lack of understanding what could really happen, lack of the laws, lack of knowledge of the laws, because a lot of people think they can, especially in Georgia, that the guy just talked about shooting over property. You got to let the property go. We can't do that here in Georgia. Now, I think in Texas, we've been recently that situation in Texas. It'd be interesting to see how that turns out. But Texas is one of those few states that I know of that you can defend property to that extent, but not here in Georgia. So we got to understand. If somebody's stealing my car right now, it's just bad luck. I got to let that go. But ego creeps in and say, "Hey, not my car, not my whatever, not to me." And we pull the gun first because we got it and we think it's the great equalizer that's going to stop somebody. And it may or may not. But I think that's one of the things. And then of course, not all police officers, but sometimes I do think it could be on their side some type of fear, like it's in this role and fear kicks in that it's going, again, they're the adrenaline too.
Yeah.
But their job is to be there. And, sometimes they kind of got to not be in the moment, but also think through what's actually happening too. I can't speak for all of them. I don't sit on any boards. I don't sit on any panel where I can dissect the thought process of those. But the talking point is always, I fear for my life, right?
Right.
That's what we hear all the time. That's what they say they did all the time. They fear for their life. So it's, if you say that, then to me that says you were fearful in that moment of something that you thought you saw, but they thought this was a gun, but it's not a gun.
Right.
And now I'm dead, right? So fear drives, based on their own words to me, is what they have. And fear is what we have too in the community, but it's to me it's more ego for the civilian side of it in our community than fear, because we are quick to go to that as the great equalizer. And I would say 99% of the time it can be resolved without that.
Right.
But it's just those things, and getting people educated enough to say, getting them trained enough to say, hey, I don't need to go to that. I understand how to de-escalate. I understand how to use my words. Be ready. I'm never going to say I'm not ready, but understand this ain't what it is, and you can win this argument. Now, I'm keeping eyes on you the whole time. I'm telling you, you won, because if you jump to a whole other level, then cool. I'm mentally watching you, but don't let it get to that route. I tell people, students all the time, the best day is when we both go home.
Yep.
Begin the argument, cool. We both go home. No harm, no foul. Everybody's lying. Everybody got all the same holes that came.
Yep.
Good. That's a good day. A bad day, like we used to say, if for whatever reason the guys used to train with it, for whatever reason we in those kicks and all that stuff, the vests and all that stuff, it's already a bad day. Why in the world is me as a civilian running around here with a vest on? Now, yes, I have it because if it's a bad day, then I want to have it. But if I'm wearing it, it's a bad day. If I'm wearing it for real out here in the street, it's a bad day. And I only have to take a shot, but it's a bad day that I got to wear that, right? So it's a bad day if we have to deploy that firearm because even if I don't shoot it, again, we talk about knowing the rules of deadly force. Even pulling the firearm and not shooting could still land you in some trouble. It could
Oh,
still
really?
land you in some legal. Yeah, it could still land you in some legal trouble. Because if you pull it and don't shoot it, and you weren't in the right to be able to do that, now you pointed your firearm at someone that could be assault with a deadly weapon, or no those charges there. So understanding those four tenements of which is I'm gonna butcher them, but you got to be the innocent party. So me and you can't be in a bar and get to arguing, and I start the argument and say, "Well, Antonio, he did something. He pushed me back, so I can't start the argument. You pushed me back, and I know you got boxing skills, right? So I'm like, hey, his hands are deadly weapon, but I started. I can't then say I'm gonna defend myself with a firearm because I started it. So now I'm not the innocent party. Again, and let's say I don't know you're a boxer and let's say neither one of us have boxing skills, right? But we get
Right.
into an argument, we get to a fist fight. Cool, it's just a fist fight. If you start whooping up on me, that ain't. I just got to take that L. It's not the grounds for me to then go pull my weapon because I'm not in. You got to be in grave bodily harm. So again, could that be grave bodily harm? Could be, but if I started it, again, I'm not the innocent person, and it's just a fist fight.
Right.
So have to have no way to retreat. So if they don't have a way to retreat, or if you do have a way to retreat, rather should I say, again, we're in a bar argument, fist fight, and I can get up and I see a hey, somebody kind of comes in between like a run off, cool, run off. Don't stand there and still continue. So if you can run off, or like I talk about the alleyway situation, if for whatever reason you go down the alley and somebody's there and it's like, ooh, backtrack if you can and get out of that alley. You have a way to retreat. That was one of the other things. I'm blanking on the fourth one, but there are four things that you have to know before you get to the level of being qualified to say, I can defend myself with deadly force now. And a lot of people have no idea that. Now, part of that is Georgia has no curriculum that says you have to take any class. And so they don't get that information.
Now, do you think that should be a requirement? I'm gonna put it out there. I think because even being a gun owner and like I said, I have multiple weapons. I think that because I have my license too, even though it's not required anymore in Georgia, that I think that when we get weapons, that we should be mandated to have to go through a training class.
Yeah, I mean, so when I first got my very first permit, I was in Tennessee. Tennessee had a class mandate. When I came back home, it was surprising to me at that time. Georgia had nothing. I could just go to the courthouse, do the fingerprints, done. I'm like, that's easy, but I know nothing, right? I don't want to necessarily have. I mean, can it be mandated? Sure, but I think people need to seek it out. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And why get a case in point, right? We drive these cars. We had to go learn it. Now, granted, we had to learn it to get a permit, but and there was a mandate. But we drive cars and get trained on those all the time. But we go and get firearms and don't choose to get trained on those, even to the basic level.
Right.
You know, and that's a problem for me. Now I don't know if it needs to be mandated by the state or the government or whatever, but people you should want to know how to use whatever. If I'm gonna go out here and mow lawns, I want to get with somebody, hey, what's the best way to be efficient with this mowing the lawn? Show me I got a big hill in my backyard. What's the best way for me to go up this hill without flipping my lawn? Right? I should want to know how to do the best that I can be with whatever tools that I'm using. I feel like a lot of times people just get them and think, I know how to press a trigger. That's enough. And it's really not. You train, you go to the range, you probably seen people holding a gun weird because they've seen what they've seen on TV, all the stuff that they see that they don't get training for, and then realize or don't realize that they're doing it completely wrong, or that I can defend my vehicle because it's my property. Why you can't take my stuff? Well, no, they shouldn't take your stuff, but they can by law because you can't defend that property if it's getting stolen like that. So I think people should seek it out for sure, whether it's mandated or not. You should want to get it because you need to know when you can and can't. And the more, and I love teaching that class because it keeps reinforcing to me, hey, when I can and can't, understanding these are the ways I can, these are when I can, this is when I can't. So it's always a reinforcement for me because it's something that you should always keep in the back of your mind.
You make a good point. I never thought of it like that because, like even using the analogy used for like cutting grass, when you start cutting a lawn, even if you cut it the first time, you realize once it fits in the summertime, and you cut it down too low, it dies out. You're trying to figure out like why is my grass dying? It's because you're cutting it too low. You're not leaving enough time for
Right.
the water to have moisture and stuff in there, so the grass can continue to grow and it's not getting burnt out from the sunlight. So yeah, you train yourself on how to take care of your house, maintain your car. But you're right, yeah, when it comes to something that you really should be having training on, people neglect that. Because you're right, man, going to the range, you go to the range and you meet like our group of people to where they want to shoot, like you say, shoot the gun the way they see in the movies, and or they don't have a proper stance and they just unloading the mags down to where they haven't even hit the target. They just shooting it down.
Yep.
And then they get that adrenaline. I've seen the times where they've gotten adrenaline going through them from just shooting the gun to where they turn around and the gun finger's still on the trigger and turn around trying to talk to their friends and stuff around them. And it's like then you have instructors running in trying to grab them to push the gun away. Because I saw a lady, she got escorted out for that because she got done shooting and she turned around with gun still in her hand and finger on the trigger, and he had to grab her hand immediately from the range over to get her to stop.
Yep. I mean, and that's part of the reason. If I go to the indoor range, I go early. I'm just gonna be honest. I go early because that's the crowd that's about to be in there noon and forward, because it's just like it could be an unsafe environment because they don't want to be trained. And me as an instructor is out. Me as a person, I want to help, but we just talked about ego a little bit earlier. How do I go up to that guy who's with his girlfriend like, dude, you're doing this wrong? Right now,
if you approach him the right way, because I saw one guy, he was doing well. I got his attention because I have a pistol grip shotgun like the ones the police use. So when you start shooting it off in the range, everybody start looking over because they're trying to figure out what the hell you're shooting in the range.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So he peeked over one time, and then I offered to let him shoot it, but then I noticed how he was holding his gun and how he was trying to talk to his girl about it. I was like, no man, let me help you out a little bit. I'm like, I'm not trying to I'm not trying to go against your ego or nothing, but let me just show you the right way to try to help you. I'm not a pro, but I know the basics on proper usage on how to aim it.
Yeah, I mean, I get those all the time. Like, it's a gamble because we've had a club member who tried to do that as well, and the dude got really upset. It's like, so it's a gamble.
Yeah.
Even when I'm out and about and I see people who are trying to conceal carry, but they're not concealing because it's all poking out, so I can see it.
Yeah.
And we've seen the videos where people come up behind them and snatch it. I saw a guy in sweatpants. He just was in his sweatpants, just in the pocket. Like, dude, that's easy to be snatched.
Yeah.
Super easy. But it's a delicate thing because when you talk about wanting to help them and help them understand how to, I've hadn't figured it out the best way yet to kind of come in and say, hey, let me just kind of talk to you for a second, and try to de-escalate before it even gets started, right?
Yeah.
And just let them know that this is coming from a place of wanting you to be better and wanting you to keep what you have to protect yourself, not have somebody steal it. And so those are the things that I've seen. But those are just some of the situations where I'm like, this we can do better as a community in that. But training you should want to learn to be the best at what you have. Even if it's not be the best, at least get the basic level down. Say, hey, I don't want to be John Wick. I just need to know how to how to point and shoot accurately, consistently, and know when I can and can't. If that's as much as you need, that's what you need. But go get the education to get it.
Yeah, because you don't want to have a situation come up and it's like you're fearful. Well, not fearful, but you have to use it, and then you're not using it the right way, and you end up harming one of your own family members or yourself.
Correct. Exactly. because and I'm a motivator. And so I get people out in their first time shooting, and they might have a grouping that's about this big, but it's your very first time. Cool. We hit the target. We had no defensive misses from you being calm. Now, add some stress and time to that. This comes to this real fast. And now that we're starting to miss, where are those rounds going? Right. And so that's what I kind of get to them and say, hey, you had a good first day, but this is just day one. I need you to keep practicing and focusing and getting this down to about this. Because then when if and hopefully never, then if it happens, this just expands about this much. So if I'm here and I get here, I'm still on target.
Yeah.
In an acceptable range and still on center mass.
Yeah.
So train to where you get to the in the comforts of just being able to be there, just stand and shoot, that everything is hitting about right here. Because if once the adrenaline going, it's going to expand. You have no choice but to expand.
Now,
So,
and I always start off with your opinion because I always say this is our opinion. It's just our opinion.
yeah.
I have this thing that I say because I'm a huge progressive, but I do believe that when it comes to firearms, I think all Black people should own firearms, and that's primarily because I think we just get picked on too much. And I think that if we all own firearms and show that we own firearms, I think that picking on us will actually calm down a little bit better. Like, what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say yes. And my opinion comes more from the historical things that have happened to us.
Same as mine.
You take the situation in Rosewood many years ago,
Mm-hmm.
Tulsa many years ago. You know, I'm not willing to be disarmed for the sake of appeasing the masses when this country honestly has showed us that at times they've attacked our community in force.
Yep.
I'm not willing to bet put my money on that gamble. I'm just not. And so, and I never think, people always talk about race wars and things like that. I honestly don't think it'll ever happen.
Yeah.
But on the off chance that it does, right? We know for one, we're not going in the country with them. They're gonna have to come to the rural areas or the suburban areas with us.
Right.
Again, I'm not putting my bet on the government or the state to protect me in those situations. And even if I did, how long are they going to take to get to me in that situation?
Right.
So I still need to defend myself until they get here. So I do think as a community, we should be armed enough to protect ourselves. You can legally do so. I'm just not, like I said, I'm just not willing to be disarmed for the sake of just saying we need to get rid of guns in our community to be safer. Safer from who? Because violence is still going to happen.
Right.
Even if, and I know we talk about black on black violence. Listen, you commit violence and crime against where you live most of the time.
Nobody
So if I
understands
lived
that.
if I lived in a all Hispanic community as the only black person, well, if a crime is going to happen, likely could be come from a Hispanic person. If I live in an all white neighborhood, likely it's going to probably come from somebody who's white.
Right.
It just happens with who you're around.
Right.
But I think I'm just not willing to disarm myself to say that we need to be safer. When again, even us as a black people aside, the country history has shown that ain't the best for us, because if we disarm, we're easy target now, and you
Yeah.
come do whatever you want. No, I'm not doing that.
Especially when I'm reminded about black on black crime, because when they talk about where they say y'all the smallest percentage of people that you have, but you commit the most of the crimes. So I'm like, okay, knowing that, why would I disarm myself and allow
Right.
you, since we're the smallest number, to come in and cause any harm to me and my family?
Right. And I think one of the things for me is that, they talk about the youth and all that, right? Well, they can't go buy it. They can't legally carry it. So one, they can't legally carry it. Two, they can't buy it. So where are they getting it from?
Right.
Either from the let's just be honest, there is definitely gun trafficking in the country, not just to us, but in the country in general. So there's definitely gun trafficking, right? But most of the time for these youth, it's just a stolen gun. They can't, like I said, they can't buy it. They can't do anything. It's a stolen gun that they get stolen out your car, from your home, from it not being locked up in either situation. So if that's the case, even if we said we got all people to disarm, they will find a way because somebody has left that gun unattended.
Right.
Or, and so it's like you got to kind of figure out. It starts with us as the responsible gun owners. I lock all my stuff up because, like I said, my nephew sometimes stay here. He knows don't touch it, but I don't give him the opportunity. He's 12. I still don't give him the opportunity. If he's over here and I don't have it on my body, it goes right into the safe. You know not to touch it, but I'm not giving you the chance to.
Yeah.
Because why? It's like I tell my dog to not do this in the house. Cool. If I don't want him to use the bathroom in the house, well, I know, hey, let's just go outside because it's been a little minute. Let's go outside and get you released.
Yeah.
Right. So the precautions of it all. And again, that comes back to training for the adult, understanding what you should and shouldn't do, understanding, hey, I need to lock this up now because there are definitely means to where we can lock these up and keep it safe from the kids and keep it safe in my car via different lockbox options and not have it stolen to where these kids get it and go commit the crimes you want them to stop committing. If they don't have access to it, it's going to stop by nature, the virtue of I don't have access to it. Like I said, gun trafficking aside, most of them ain't got the money to go do that anyway, and they don't have access to it.
Right.
So those are just some of the things I think could happen for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one way because I'm not going to even get on to how can we stop all the crime within our communities because I honestly think there's a clean answer to that. I mean, because we can put programs because like everybody like to focus on Chicago, but nobody really pays attention to all the stuff that's being put into place into Chicago that it hasn't worked. I mean, they have after school programs, they have like the Boys and Girls Clubs up there, they have stuff set up for them to get involved in so they don't have to be hanging out in the streets. I mean, they have all kind of opportunities up there. They even have like the men's marches where they march through the neighborhoods where some of those crimes are being committed at. And it still happens. So I don't think there's a clean answer to that. But I wanted to stop. Absolutely. I mean, because I get tired of it. I mean, because me as a gun owner, I'm fearful of my life across the board. I'm fearful of my life when it comes to police officers. And I had police officers in my family and I love them to death. And I know they're responsible, but I still have to worry about them because I have had police pull their gun on me because they thought I was somebody else. I have to worry about the other communities that I don't look like because I grew up here in the South and I know what it was like growing up. And then I have to worry about my own people. So it's like, for me, it's like, as a rule of law, I have to stay armed to defend myself because I don't know where the threat is coming from.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of how I feel too. It's like, I don't know where it's coming from. It could look like me or it couldn't. It could be somebody in uniform or it couldn't. I don't know. Right. And the not knowing is where I tell people, hey, you gotta have your situational awareness about you. If you're not paying attention to your surroundings, that's where things start to go south. And I hate to say it, I've had these close experiences, but luckily nothing bad. I mean, knock on some wood that nothing bad happens. But I was at the gas station maybe a couple of so years ago, and a group of teenage boys walking up. Got any money on you? Like, or can I, we need to get some, however they ask for some money. And I'm just like, no, I don't have any cash on, which I typically don't have cash on me anyway. Got cash out. I left my phone at the house, man. I'm just getting gas. And I knew that they were trying to get me distracted to do whatever they wanted to do. But my situation awareness said, I'm not taking my eyes off of you. And I'm making sure that you and your buddy are, trying to traverse behind me to box me in, right?
Right.
And so, but that's my situation. I saw him coming, and I reckon, I saw him. Okay, this looks weird, and nope, don't have any cash. Don't even have my phone on me. Well, I'm not going in there to in the car to turn my back. Nope, not doing it. So that's a form of de-escalation right there. Is being aware of what's in front of you before it even happens. If it looks funny, like you said, if it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. And that looked funny to me. And I was like, no, I'm not taking my eyes off y'all. until I'm back in my car safely. I'm just not turning my back on you. So doing that, like you said, we don't know where it's coming from. And oddly enough, when I go into the Walmart here by me, I always look at the exits,
Yep.
going in, coming out. As I come out of the aisle and come back to the front to go check out, I'm looking at what's going on at the exit. What's going on at the entrance, so I can see kind of what's anything crazy happening. And and honestly, it's not even for the mass shooting aspect. Walmart had just some crazy stuff happens.
They do, yeah.
But it's just that situational awareness is where it's just like I'm paying attention to this. I go sit in a restaurant. I don't like my back turned to the door.
Yeah.
It's like I want to be able to. If something happens, I want to be able to see it coming so I can react quicker because I see it coming, not react slower because my back is turning. Most normal reaction, just like I did, is what's happening versus if I'm let's say we together and you notice something, you can probably say, hey, Larry, hey, I'm cool. I'm like, all right, Antonio already keyed in. Something's fishy. I ain't got to necessarily now look behind my back. It just something happened. Just get down because you at least have already identified that something don't look right. But if it's someone who doesn't know that, doesn't know to tell me that, no, I need to be looking so I can see for myself. Um, so that's just the situational awareness piece. And what we talk about, especially as gun owners, is when you out the house, you got to have your situation turned on anyway because you're a gun owner. And if you are unaware of what's going on around you as a gun owner, that's a part of the problem because how am I gonna be buried in my phone with a gun on my hip, even though it's concealed? And it's just you can't get wrapped up into that. I don't even like carrying stuff in one of the hands because I need to be able to grab if I need to. I don't want to have too much in my hands leaving the store. Normally, if I can't fit it into a few bags and have it in one hand,
Mm-hmm.
I got a cart. I can still be hands free if I need to be. So those are just the things for me where, like you said, we don't know where it's coming from, but we can prepare by understanding. Once I'm out, there's no need for me to just be buried in my phone. And yeah, I'm on my earpiece sometimes, but eyes are still scanning because you
Yeah, and
just
it's
never
funny.
know when to be.
They're teaching it now, like in like defensive course classes for the schools, for
Mm-hmm.
in the event that they have like a shooting take place. Like my kid's mom said, they went through a training today, and it was similar to that, to where they was teaching about paying attention to the exits and stuff. And I was like, to me, I like that's something that because I tried to teach her that before too. I was like, but that's stuff that they should have been, people should have been taught a long time ago. I'm like, yeah, I got the
Yeah.
training when I was young, but it's, of course, I put myself in that surrounding to be taught that. Because I was like, as
Mm-hmm.
most men, when you go into a restaurant, especially going out on a date, like your back should not be
Mm-hmm.
turned to the door. You should always, when you come in, you should know your exits, and you should
Yep.
know if there's a window, how to get out of the window, where the window is that you potentially have to jump out of, and or you should always be facing directly in front of you. Because I mean, we've seen the situation where the shootings have taken place. I don't care if it was in movie theaters. They had the shooting that was, what was it? It wasn't Ohio, Utah, one of the places in the movie theater, and dude
Mm-hmm.
couldn't even realize, forgot where the exit. They didn't even see the exit doors.
Yep. Yep. What was the last one? Was it Colorado? Was the last one that I remember anyway?
Was it
But yeah,
Aurora? I think it was
I,
Aurora.
I
Yeah.
remember Aurora definitely had one. I know that was the last, but I remember Aurora definitely. But you're right. I mean, I purposely I purposely sit up top near the exit door. It was like, yeah, okay, exit right there, cool, got it, it's open. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So I can know. And I'm watching. It's funny because even in the movie theater, I don't expect anything to truly happen. But I'm watching like, okay, let's just see this person come in, cool. Son and kid, son and dad, cool, whatever. Um, but it's just you just never know.
Right.
I don't think anything will happen, but I'm not. Again, like I said, I don't expect my nephew to touch it, but I'm not giving him an opportunity to touch it. I don't expect anything to happen in the movie theater or Walmart, but I'm not willing to let myself just be completely unaware of anything going on at all, and just kind of be left open to subjected to something happening when I could have at least seen it and be ready for it.
I mean, that's just the art of training, because that's what I loved about, like, I tell everybody, especially when you get in martial arts, to read Jeet Kune Do. I don't know if you ever read that before. Bruce Lee's
I
book.
haven't, no. Okay.
And that's one of the things that he talks about in his book. He was like a true fighter, thinks about fighting all the time. Like they always plan out situations. Whenever they see people, they sizing them up. But even though they know nothing's gonna happen, they want to see how they could defend themselves against somebody. If they're bigger than them or smaller than them, if it's a group of people, like how you can play out that fight in your head walking down the street. Now, the bad part about it is once you program like that, that's all you think about. Like it's really hard to write into the moment.
Right.
Because you always paying attention to so much stuff going on around you. But
Right.
it's like you said early on, it's better to be conscious and aware of situations than to be unconscious and not think about it and something happens and now it caught you off guard.
Yeah, I call it the equalizer effect.
Yeah.
How he sees the fight before he gets ready to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing. Like I saw those 3 or 4 kids. I'm like, all right, yeah, making sure I see you kind of walking, making sure you don't get behind me. You know, I saw it. I saw, then after a couple of no and quick continue eye contact, then he just kind of pushed forward. It's like, yeah, cool, yes. But like you say, you see it. It's like, okay. And I tell people when I do multi-target engagement is don't think about it as 1, 2, 3. Think about it as who's the most dangerous at that moment.
Yeah.
It may not be the one closer to you sometime. It might be one closer to you might just might not have anything, but who already got their gun out if
Right.
it's that type of situation. Closest person might not have anything out, but who got that gun out already? That might be the one I got to take out first.
Yep.
It's just looking at the situation like, okay, if this is about to happen, what is my first move based on what's given? What information do I have right now to be able to determine? Okay, I do have to go here first or there first. Even just setting it up, I saw a video a while ago, and I've never done it this way, but people who get out and at the gas station and they're between the pump and they have the car door open. So automatically you boxed yourself in.
Yeah.
Right. And I always close my door anyway. So I never kept the car door open. But also I started changing up how I did. It's like, okay, if they come for the front, I still don't want the pump hose blocking me either or trying to jump over that last minute. So now I stand to the back of the trunk. So that way I'm completely open. So if something were to happen, I have all the space to be able to move versus trying to either jump over the hose or push past and get to the door, through the door, whatever the case may be. But if now that I said, if you look, a lot of people box themselves in sometimes between the hose and the car door and think they're in a safer space versus if someone snuck up on you and got between both of those, kind of trapped at that point. So
I saw
those are the
one
little things that
guy.
happen.
I actually like I kind of do follow his side. This guy, he was a legal carrier. He had a situation take place at a gas station. And what he did was he kept his doors locked, but he was holding on to the gas pump himself. So when two people tried to box him in, he pulled a gas pump out, sprayed down 2 guys in front of him with gasoline to pull his gun out. And that's when he told him, he was like, if I can pull this gun. And if I do, everybody going up in flames. And they all just ran off.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and that's a psychological tactic, but it's
yeah,
you have to be real close to knock that liquid, but it's a psychological tactic for them. So, but yeah, I mean, I've seen. I don't think it was that guy, but it definitely was. I think a lady defended herself like that before. They kind of come and she just took the hose and just started spraying them with the gas. It's like, yes, I would use that as a deterrent because now in their mind it's like, oh crap, I got gas on me, I could be set on fire. I don't have a lighter to set you on fire, and I would have to be real close with that spark from that blast from that gun to be able to catch it on fire. Because the bullet is not going to do it, but they wouldn't think about that.
Right.
It's just the fact that I got gas on me and now I could be caught on fire potentially. Yeah, so I mean, there are definitely ways to defend yourself within that. If you don't have a firearm, yeah, use the gas itself. Even get it in their eyes if you can, because I'm trying to go to the face. Because if you get in your eyes, I already know that's not going to feel good.
Right, you're gonna be disabled.
Yeah.
But
so
as we wind down, let people know like how they can find you so they can get involved and so they can sign up.
Yep. So Bass Reeves Gun Club, we are definitely on our website is bassreevesgc.com. We definitely have Ladies Day. So the ladies, every second Sunday, we have a opportunity for them to train with us. You don't have to be a member for that. Our general meetings are open to the public to where you come out and get more information face to face with us if you would like. We are having our general meeting this month on next Saturday, the 22nd. That will be at Stoddard's Midtown, downtown in that range, where that's our home range, where we host the general meetings and do some of our events there. But yeah, the best way to get in contact with us is through the website, bassreevesgc.com. And once you become a member, our Facebook group is closed to non-members, but once you become a member, it is open to you as well. We'll get that information to you if they choose to join us. But yeah, we definitely look to educate the people. We want people to understand how to be safe with this, and we definitely will train, but safety is our mantra. We want to make sure everybody is safe and understands how to be safe.
But thank you again for coming on too, man. I mean, I like the conversation and the education factor behind it too, letting people know that they should get more training just to be able to know how to use the tools that they have.
For sure. Yeah. And thank you for having me.
And one thing I do ask all of my people coming on, even though it's going on, just to leave a positive thought with the community, because we, especially growing up here, you know, we're surrounded by so much trauma that's been taking place recently. Let's leave a positive thought to just people that's around us.
Yeah, I would say the positive is it invests in yourself. The positive for me is that it allows us to be our own first responder. Yes, I want to be able to call the police, but I also know it gives me the safety and security to say I can handle any situation. So if you do it right and you get the proper training, the positive, you definitely can. I think to your point, you slow things down because you know, hey, I can de-escalate this without going on to that. So that's the positive to me. You actually, the more you learn, the more I feel like you'll be able to save life instead of taking life. So that's a positive for me.
Absolutely. And I want to, I piggyback off of that too, because I think that the more training you get, and that you should always invest back into yourself, because the more knowledge you have, the more power you have over your body and your own control. So continue to do that, because no matter what you do, I don't care if it don't have to be in weapons. It could be any form of training that you're trying to do for any advancement you try to do. Just advance in yourself, learn how to do it, apply to the training that you get in to help improve your life and improve your consciousness. So thank you again, brother, for coming on. I look forward to the classes. I'm a member now.
Yes.
So I look forward to coming out, getting me some more training, because I do need some more training, because I got this shield I need to learn how to use the right way too, because I am not getting the targets en masse with that. So yeah, thank you again. Thank everybody for tuning in. Live, love, laugh. Matrix out.